everybody, and welcome to this week's video. Today I'm going to show you how to make a 3-strand pearl bracelet. So today we're going to be working with some big pearls, which is going to be our center row, and we have some smaller pearls, which are going to be the 2 main rows. Now what I'm going to add, I think I'm going to do like 15 or 16 of the smaller beads on each side, and then I'm going to make sure that the bigger beads are the same length. So it may not be all of these, but I just want to be sure that I have enough. We have our toggles, we have a charm, and I have 3 pieces of Figaro chain. We have some closure beads as well as some connectors. We have some small connectors, we have our closure beads, and then we're going to use 2 larger connectors. And these are going to be what we attach. I'm sorry, that is the wrong size. We're going to use this size, and this is what we're going to use to connect our 3 strands to. Also, I have my beading tools here, some scissors, as well as a beading needle with thread already attached. And I'm doing a double strand thread just because I like it to be really secure. And what I'm using is Beadsmith, and this is a waxed nylon beading thread. So I got all of this stuff at Joann's, and we're going to get started with working with our first toggle and our first strand. I like to get started with our toggles first, just so we have those ready when we get to the end of everything. So let's work with our first toggle. We're going to put a connector bead on here. So if you don't know how, this is just basically how I open mine up a little bit to get it in there. So we're going to put that there for our toggle. Then we're going to take the other end and connect it to our larger connector. And I'm just going to close it. I like to make sure mine is really closed. So I'll just squeeze it a little once I have it positioned where I want it. I just don't want my beads coming off once I have them all on there. And you can always use beading cement, which I get mine from Michael's. So this is what it should look like right now. So I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to take 3 more of these connectors, because this is what we're going to be putting our strands on. So I'm going to put our connectors on here. We're only going to use one at a time, but I want to get them all on here first. So again, I'm just going to open this up. And put it on to our larger connector. Closing these back can be a little bit difficult and tricky once you have it on whatever you're trying to put it on. You just have to work with it and learn how and for our third one. So now you should have something that looks like this. So let's get started working with the other toggle. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take the other part of the toggle with our chain that I already got open. You just open it just like I showed you when you open your connectors. So I'm going to open mine a little bit wider. And working with chain can be tricky, especially when you're working with a smaller part of chain, just because it's less grip. So you just had to hold on to it really tight. So now we're going to take our other large circle connector. Oops, I'm sorry. Wrong. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. So we're going to take the small one, because we want to have enough space in between the chain and the toggle. Okay. I am on another level today. Sorry. Let's start again. We're going to connect the chain to the other end of the toggle, and we're going to close this up. Once we have this closed, we'll add our other circular connector, which will in turn be connected to the larger circle connector. So like I said, I like to work with mine and make sure that it's really, really closed. That way nothing's coming apart from it. So I just squeeze it down to make sure it's closed. And again, like I said, it's very hard and it can be very tricky working with such a small piece of chain. Okay, so far this is what yours should look like. So I'm going to take this smaller connector here and I'm going to add it to the end part of the chain. Then I'm going to take our large connector and add it together, and we're going to close this. Then we're going to go ahead and add our other 3 pieces of circle connectors. And once we have all this together, we'll start stranding our beads. Okay? So at this point, this is what it should look like. So I'm going to go ahead and take these and put them on, and we're going to work with 1 strand at a time. Like I said, I just want to prepare everything so that when we're completely finished with the pearls, we won't have to do this. It's just kind of like saving time. Okay, and I have 1 more. When everything is almost the same color, it's hard to tell where things are. Okay. Oops. Alright, so now your toggles should look like this. You have the one end that has the 3 small connectors, the large one, and the end part of the toggle, and then you have this one that's connected to the chain with the 3 toggle closures you're going to be working with. So now we're going to add our charm, which already has a connector on it. So we're just going to open it up and connect it to a part of our chain. And I'm going to put mine right on the end piece here. And this just adds like a little something extra to your bracelet. So now that we have that done, let's start working with our beads. So what I'm going to do is take one of these really tiny spacer beads, and I'm going to put this on my thread first, and I'll show you why. So like I said, we're working with one piece at a time. So what I'm going to do is take this in, and you can start with any end, it really doesn't matter. And I'm going to put the needle through one of the little connectors because I want to get the bead on. So I'm going to leave just a tad bit of space there, and you'll see why in a few seconds. And I'm going to get it as close as I can to the connector. Then I'm going to take my thread and I am going to put it on the opposite side and then put the thread back through our connector. And make sure you're putting it on the opposite side where you initially started connecting the bead, just because you don't want it to come off. So what it's going to create is like a little knot. Once you have that, I told you to leave a little bit of space just because I am going to wrap this around just for added security so it doesn't come apart. This is one of the reasons why I use more thread than I would need when I'm doing stringing of beads, just so I can tie off for added security. And we're just going to cut that off. And don't worry about that little hanging piece because I'll show you what we're going to do with it in the end. So now at this point, you're just going to start stringing your pearls. And these holes can be really small and hard to see sometimes. So I'm going to start off using 13 and then seeing how many more I would like to add after that. And I like to put things up to my wrist before I finish it, just to see if I want it to be a little longer. I gauge with my eyes how much extra it's going to add when I complete the bracelet, like putting the end toggle, and how much more, and then I'll decide from there if I would like to put more beads on or not. So right now I'm just putting the beads through the hole. I'm sorry if I was out of the camera before and you didn't really see me stringing the beads on. So you're just going to keep on doing this until you get your desired length, and then you're going to start putting the second row on. So I'm going to finish doing this and I'm going to show you how to finish this off. So for my first row, I actually put 20 pieces on, and if it's just slightly bigger for me, that's fine, because I like my jewelry just to be a little bit bigger. I don't know why. So I'm going to take another one of these small spacer beads and I'm going to put it through. Okay, so now it sits like that. So now what I'm going to do is bring over the other toggle. And I'm going to find one of these empty connectors and I'm going to connect this piece. And this will be the same process for the other two rows. So again, I'm going to put through the small spacer bead again. And as you can see, this is what it looks like. So you're just going to pull until you get it where you want it. And see, that automatically pulls up. So now it looks like this. So if you want, you can cut it at this point and then tie these end strings together, which is what I'm going to do, and that's what I normally do. So now that I have these two pieces hanging, before I cut it off, I'm going to tie this. And again, this is just for added security for me so that the bracelet doesn't come apart. And if it does, I know exactly how I made it, so I know exactly how to put it back together. And one more time. I always say to myself, 2 knots is good, 3 knots is better. Okay, so now that's extremely secure. So this is what our first strand looks like. So now we're just going to repeat the process, only for the center we're using the larger beads. And we're going to use that same process to do the center of our bracelet. So again, taking another spacer bead, and then putting it on my thread. I'm going to find another empty spot, which I have. Then I'm going to start putting through my thread. And this time we are working with less thread, so we want to save as much of it, excuse me, as possible. Okay. So again, we're doubled through the spacer bead, and now I'm going to take this and wrap it around just like I did the last time. And because this is shorter, I'm actually going to take my needle through the hole. I'm going to do it one more time. This time, I'm going to put this part through the hole. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now there we go. So now that we have this on here like this, we're going to take our bigger beads and start putting those through. And we want to pay attention to how many we're putting on. We're definitely not going to use the same amount that we used for the smaller beads. Just because these are larger, we won't need as much. So you want to make sure it's the same length and not the same amount. And you can also use the same size bead for each row. It depends on how you want it. This is just how I wanted mine, so this is just how I'm making it. So now I'm done with my middle row, and I actually have 15, and I've already started going through my loop. And you would do that just like I showed you the last time, and we're going to double back through our spacer bead, and we're going to pull that through. So now your two strands should look like this. So now it's ready for the third, and we're going to use 20 just like we did for the first strand. So now it's time to go on to our last strand. So we're going to take our spacer bead here, and we're going to do it just like we did with the first. I'm going to put mine through there, and I'm going to find my final connector. Putting my needle through. Okay. It's getting a little tangled just because the other two are already done. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is go back through. Okay, so we're going to double back through so that our connector bead stays on like it's supposed to. And I'm going to do just like I did with the other side and secure this. Okay, so we're just tying a knot, and you can use however many makes you feel comfortable. If you want to do 2, if you want to do 3 like I normally do, that's great. If you want to do more, that's even better. So let's finish up with our last strand here. And the needle doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, so again, just in case you don't remember, I needed to use 20 for my first strand. And we're just going to put it through the needle and just keep on stringing them through. Until you get all 20 done, and then I'll show you again how to close this off. So now we're down to our last bead, and this came out really pretty. So we're going to take the other connector. Oops, almost forgot our spacer bead. Okay. Now we're going to take our last connector. Put our needle through, get that thread going around, and now it's all connected. And we're going to do the same thing with that last spacer bead that we've been doing with the spacer beads the whole time. It's just a little bit trickier now, just because everything is together. It makes it a little harder to work with. So we double back through that spacer bead. Now we're just going to loop that and pull it all the way down and make sure everything is together. And I'm just cut that off now. Then we're going to tie it just like we did before. And if you want to add a little bit more security to your closings, like up at the top of your spacer beads, you can get some bead cement. I got all of my supplies from Michael's. Everything that we worked with today I got from Michael's. And now we are all finished. Everything is complete, everything is together. Right now what you should have is a 3-strand bracelet that looks like this. And it may get a little tangled, but you could just push that through like that. And you have your toggles here with your little extra charm that hangs off. And so now it looks like this. And it's really pretty. You made it yourself. You didn't spend a lot of money doing it. And it costs you less than it would in any store. And I know it looks small, but I have a little wrist. Actually, me and my daughter, she's 5, can kind of fit some of the same bracelets. Like I fit a lot of her bracelets and she fits a lot of mine. But this is really cute and it's an elegant piece. It can be dressed up, it can be dressed down. That is the great thing about working with pearls. You can pretty much do anything with them and make them your own. If you have any questions, please put those questions in the comments. Again, you can always follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also follow my family channel if you would like to see a day in the life with the Womacs. And that is it for this week, and I will see you again next week.